Elon Musk just told investors that Tesla's true Nvidia moment, this is when Nvidia's stock started to skyrocket, will come the instant unsupervised self-driving scales, and that Optimus mass production could trigger an even larger valuation jump. He's basically outlined the two catalysts that could redefine Tesla's market cap. But some investors think it could come earlier. Chris Camillo of Dumb Money fame thinks the stock could rise as soon as Tesla is able to demonstrate Optimus is a commercially viable product. That is 100 times more important, he says. Stifel analyst Stephen Gangaro believes Tesla will see increased adoption of full self-driving as more people experience it. On the robotaxi front, Tesla just now officially went wide to iOS users. Everyone can now get access today. Meanwhile, Waymo just now announced they're introducing fully autonomous driving in 5 new cities: Miami, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Orlando. But in good news, it looks like Elon Musk and President Trump are back in good relations, as Trump invited Elon to the White House to host the Saudi crown prince. Hopefully this continues, as regulations for self-driving cars and bots will be important for investors to track. We've got Joe Bakhti here with us today. He's an economist and tech entrepreneur. He has a YouTube channel covering both Tesla and AGI. Check out his website and community at pioneerlands.net. Welcome, Joe.
Good to be here.
So our favorite topic, especially when Elon gets talking about Tesla stock and what he thinks might happen to market cap. So it started off with, Gally Russell basically sharing this and saying, when does Tesla stock have its Nvidia moment? Okay. And I had asked that question to Søren Basher before, and he says he thinks the second quarter and the third quarter and the fourth quarter of next year, 26, because at that point, that's when you get earnings upon earnings growth. And that's what happened to Nvidia. Once they had every quarter earnings, they kept beating, and that's when stocks skyrocketed. I know you, and you can explain this, you believe that could happen earlier because there could be some sort of forcing function. But here's what Elon said. He said, pretty standard. He said the major valuation change when there is unsupervised self-driving at scale. Unsupervised self-driving at scale, and an even larger valuation change when Optimus reaches volume production. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I think as always, Søren is pretty spot on. I have been predicting the forcing function for robotaxi to kick in May next year. And the forcing function, as I see it, are 1,800 robotaxi full equivalents. So that means 200 miles commercially per day, which means it could also be more robotaxis that drive only 100 miles. So why is this so important? Because at that point, you hit roughly 5% of free cash flow of all of Tesla only through robotaxi, but then grow 50 plus % per month, right? 25 to 50% a month. So you reach 100% free cash flow, doubling of Tesla's free cash flow very quickly after that point, which in my opinion is the forcing function. Now, does that mean it is Q2? Well, I would definitely not bet against it. I think you need to be positioned, not investment advice, but I need to be positioned in a way where I have complete and full exposure by Q2 to Tesla. That's important. Now, can Søren be correct that it's going to be Q3 or Q4? Of course, because there can be delays. There can be a delay in recognition of that forcing function, which I don't think so, but who knows? So I think you can't completely bet on Q2, but you definitely have to be all in by then. And I would, if I had to bet, I would still bet on Q2, but there is like a 40-30% chance it's just Q3 or Q4.
I guess it depends on what your definition is, what people's definition is of major valuation change, right? And the Nvidia moment. What is that? Because you're right. I think the stock will start to rise as more and more of these are built in. But the point when the stock jumps, and I don't know what's a valuation change, like 2x?
Well, I mean, this is, of course, no one can predict that because that's not predicting Tesla's success, but what the percent of future discounted cash flow registration in the minds of a critical mass of investors is. So that's impossible to predict. But what is possible to predict is the window in that this needs to happen. So from the forcing function to that happening can't be too much time. I think at the very complete maximum, maybe 9 months, where you have like discretion, how much of the investors can deny it, but that can go both directions. right? We could also see a rise up to 600 or 700 right in May. So it's like, that's the challenge. I had a video out where I said, if we actually hit 30, 40,000 cybercaps deployed in December or something next year, which is
next year, that's
very
a lot.
possible. It's a lot, but my reasoning, right? They're scaling cybercap. Elon said in April, in May, cybercap gets online, the manufacturing. And once they're online, they can't hold it back too much. I mean, then you have a capacity thing. So I think even if they're delayed 3 months, 4 months, we are ending up with 30, 40,000 in next year.
Right.
And I said, if that happens, I think the stock will absolutely explode and will actually get exuberant above the fair future value. I think it hits 2,000 if that happens.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. How many cybercaps by the end of next year, or how many, well, look what he said, unsupervised self-driving at scale. So what does he mean by at scale? And I think you're right. I mean, if you say 30,000, that's clearly at scale.
Clearly at scale.
Yeah. But then
I
you
think
Elon
doesn't know that. Like that's speculation how the market reacts. He's just saying, well, at scale. If you ask him what is at scale, I mean, then you are asking him, what do you think other people will think about scale? So then you're in speculation territory.
Speculation territory.
We can just say, well, is scale 2,000, 3,000? I'm just 99% convinced or 100% convinced that 30,000 is at scale.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I mean, if you create a brand new car, you could theoretically make 50,000 of them by 1 year worth, theoretically. That's not out of the question. But it is cybercap, so it's supposed to be slow and then quicker. But it could be, it's all brand new parts, brand new model of production. And so that could slow it down. And then the other question is regulation, whether or not you could even roll out 30,000.
We had this discussion before. You can supplement the cyber caps, even if they're slower in scaling and just ramp to 10,000, 15,000, you just put in model-wise.
Yeah.
So this is really not the limiting factor is really not cyber cap. The limiting factor is deployment ability, which is regulatory, operational, things like that.
Okay, and then the next bit here is an even larger change when Optimus reaches volume production. So according to Elon, he thinks that when you have volume production of Optimus, makes sense. But Chris Camillo, he's legendary investor, he actually thinks that actually demonstrating Optimus as a commercially viable product is 100 times more important to investors than pumping out volume on something that hasn't proven it can actually produce. I guess what he's saying here, and I've talked to him before, is that, if you can show the Optimus bot doing many different tasks and you can prove, let's say you do a video of it doing it 24 hours, 48 hours straight, and you can see that it actually can do the tasks for a long period of time, and you can prove that it can actually be very viable, like, it's not just something that will break in a few days. If you can just do that, that's enough, as opposed to here's 1,000 Optimus in a factory. That's not as important as showing that it can actually really do the job.
I love having discussions with Chris on this indirectly on X and everything, because Chris is very smart. He knows a lot about robots, but I would calibrate that sentence a little bit and say, it's fun to get into Optimus speculation in more concrete terms now that it's actually starting to happen. So far, we were very focused on robotaxi because that's the big deal, and that's actually happening now. Now we are slowly sliding into real Optimus speculation, which I love. And we are not speculating for fun. We are speculating to be right. Because if we are right, we can make money, like a lot of money. So I would say with Optimus, the way this is going to go, in my opinion, is it's not a black or white situation. Do we need scale or do we need the perfect robot first that demonstrates something? I think this will be all of the above. Look at 1X Technologies, right? And Neo Gamma and this stuff, where people criticize these Norwegian guys. Oh, you're just selling this robot to all these households and it's literally remote controlled. It's like, it's a total joke. And I told people, no, it's not a joke, because this is a chicken and the egg. And sometimes you need the chicken and the egg. And, you want the perfect chicken, but then you have the little eggs. And sometimes you need both. And I think they will just ramp Optimus in 2000s, start deploying them. They're not ready to be deployed. And they will start doing things. And the more they deploy them while also doing things, the more the whole system ramps up. So I would not think of Optimus or humanoid robots, even robotaxis, as products. These are not products. These are infrastructures. So it's not about one robot. It's about rolling out and building up the infrastructure that is intelligent and centrally getting more and more intelligent. Same with the robotaxi. You don't say, oh, let's make it perfect and then sell it. No, you sell 6 million cars that are robotaxis, make them better and better while you're selling them, and suddenly, bing, it works. So I would say we see scale before it's perfect. But scale, I mean, what does scale mean? Is it 1,000, 10,000? Like we probably get to tens of thousands of these robots before they're like, mind-bogglingly perfect.
Yeah. Yep. I think that they'll do 1,000 robots, and he's already talked about it, right? There's a run rate for a production line with 1,000, one for 10,000, one for 100,000, like that. So before you get there,
I think, by the way,
Optimus 4, Optimus 5.
And I think what they're building is a run rate of 100,000 a year or something that's being installed now.
Yeah. So they might do like 1,000, 2,000, but that's not at scale. That's just prototypes, and then they'll improve it. Then they'll improve it. Okay. Like you're thinking. That's very good. So that was fun discussion. Now, the other thing, of course, is recognition that self-driving works and full self-driving is amazing. You are seeing more and more and more of that. Yesterday, I reported that Stifel and TD Cowen, they actually went and tested the car. And once you test FSD, it works. So this is
a new stock dramatically yesterday.
You think that was the reason?
It was very bad.
That was one of the reasons? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very bad market. Tesla went up all the way 5% up and then, of course, got down again. But I think that was absolutely the reason. Cowen and Stifel are very important banks. These are two of the most important banks. And if they say that, that's very serious business. I mean, they're full in the mainstream. They're very recognized. They're not total bulls like Dan Ives and these guys. Or even Morgan Stanley, Adam Jonas. They are like more, middle of the road. And they came out with $600 price, and they went to
509.
Austin.
Yeah.
509.
509, 508.
Right. And they came back from Austin and said, we looked at CyberCap. We drove FSD. This is serious business. It's happening. I think that's a big, big thing for these guys to say it.
So this is what he said. Stephen Gangaro interviewed FSC. He thinks that you'll see increased adoption as more people are exposed to it. Let's watch a little bit of it.
From a penetration perspective, in 26 and 27, it's low, right? Our model probably has 15 or 20% of Tesla buyers, sort of subscribing to FSD, and then it gets a lot higher in the later years, and we saw back over an 8 to 10 year time frame. But I think what you'll ultimately see is you'll see increased adoption as people are exposed to it. And I've been behind the wheel of several of these in the different iterations of FSD, and it is getting better and better. And I think it's something that when people experience it, much more comfortable utilizing FSD and paying for it.
Yeah, I don't know why the audio keeps popping out or not, but
all the time,
yeah, we heard it. What did you think about what he's saying?
Well, interesting. He said multiple things that I found interesting. You have to consider, if you're not Adam Jonas or even Dan Ives, who are like really out there, or Cathie Woods, right? Cathie Woods is the most out there. Dan Ives, second most, and then Adam Jonas. These are the aggressive, disruptive innovators in the mainstream Wall Street, right? Everyone else is like way different. And if you're one of these guys, we have to understand how analysts work, right? Like the regular person who never thought about it is like, oh, these analysts, they're sitting there. They have all this secret information. They're modeling out all these things, and then they're coming to their smart conclusions. That's not how it works. Right. The analysts sit in a bank. They meet the clients. They listen what the clients say, and then they want to say things that don't upset the clients. And if all the clients say, oh, I heard LiDAR is very important, you're not going to sit there and say, no, it's not. Because then the clients kick you out. It's like, are you stupid? I said it's important. So you have to stay within the expectations, which makes them not very effective in predicting the future. And you can also not say, oh, we are rolling out 40,000 cyber caps. Because then the clients say, are you nuts? Like, there are no, like Waymo only has 2,000. Maybe they get 20% of the market. So they will have 400. That's realistic. 40,000, you're a nut job. So the analysts calibrate what the clients want to hear, and you can't stretch it too much. So that's how they work, right? And then they're often smart cookies, so they feel like, oh, it could be a little more aggressive, but they have a certain window, right? You have to say, well, LiDAR is still dangerous, so let's see. That's the big risk, which is what he said, by the way, not in, like, if you watch the whole video. Say like, well, one concern I have is still LiDAR. It's like, really? And he didn't talk about cyber cabs and robotaxis. He talked about FSD, because FSD is much easier to model. He can say, look, this is so good that we see more FSD adoption.
That's
and then this is an easy model. Oh, we have all the customers and they will buy it at a much higher rate. It goes up from 2% to 20%, and that's a big revenue. So basically, they have to negotiate with the dumb public, not the dumb retail public, because the retail public is not dumb, but the dumb institutional public that are their clients. Like, well, I have to tell them somehow it's going to make more money. Let's tell them it's FSD adoption, not robo-taxis, because it stretches the brain too much. So that's happening behind the scenes. That's why we have the freedom here, Herbert, to actually model out the future, because we don't have to cater to institutional clients who want to hear certain things that they believe without knowing.
Great insights. Yeah, that's exactly right. But like you said, they're mainstream and they do move the market. They do convince the other institutions.
Right. And we see now that despite all the things that I said, that Stifler and Cohen, really getting bullish. They try to tell their people like, dudes, this is hot. This is happening.
This is real.
The adoption is now. It's real.
So today, a couple moves here by Tesla's robotaxi, also Waymo. Boy, this really is the robotaxi wars happening, and it'll heat up in 2026 next year. So, a small move, but I think that's as important. You can now have Tesla officially today, robotaxi service access has gone wide to anybody with an Apple iOS user. So if you've got an iOS phone, you can now request Tesla's robotaxi in Austin and in Bay Area, and there's no longer that wait list. Okay. So the floodgates are open. Sawyer reported that. You can see all these people reporting this, that they are here, even in Canada. But it says, of course, you're outside of the service area if you're in Canada. That's what I'll say. But if you do come and fly in to Austin or California, it'll be available for you. You can go and order it like everyone else. So anybody can do this. Now, they still don't have an Android app, though. And also, there was these validation testing seen in, of all places, in Nola, Pennsylvania. That's 2 hours west of Philadelphia. That is odd that they were testing there, because you can see these validation. That usually means, when you see this, the LiDAR validation of a certain service area, that it's going to launch sooner than you think. So this is very, very odd that it's out here. It's just another area that I wouldn't expect by now. So, yeah, any thoughts on this move by Tesla?
Well, I think what we have to always consider, it's my seeding strategy from back in the day, 6 months or whenever this was. No, 4 months. Where I said they are not going to take one market like Waymo and go very deep and try to make LA happen, but they are going into a lot of markets in parallel, because in Tesla's case, they actually have a technology called FSD. And once this technology really works, it works everywhere. Yeah. And this is the critical point. And at that point, you don't want to wait until that point and then start unlocking all these markets where you need tiny little regulatory approvals that are actually trivial, but still work, right? You need to, each of these municipalities and states might have specific weirdo regulations that are not even hard, but they take 3, 4, 5, 6 months to just work through all the details. And so you want to seed that and be everywhere, seed it with a bunch. So when it actually happens, you can massively scale. Now, this whole Pennsylvania thing, I mean, you have to consider, if you really think in scale, and Cybercab being produced in the hundreds of thousands in 2027, 28.
Yeah, you need many cities.
How does this actually look like? Like, what's the plan? Is this all in New York City and LA, or are we also talking about larger mega areas, right? Like West Pennsylvania or East Pennsylvania, and cover and blanket the whole thing. Yeah. And I think that's definitely part of the equation here, because why not? And because you actually can do these things cost effectively, not like Waymo. We always have to consider that the strategy behind Tesla's robotaxi rollout has nothing to do and cannot be thought in an analogy to Waymo, because the constraints are completely different. Tesla has not just no problem rolling out hundreds of thousands, They would love to do that. They have an anti-problem. They have kind of a push problem. They want that. Whereas Waymo has to absolutely avoid that. They cannot have any business model where they need more than 100 cars, because then they're toast. Whereas Tesla even has the reverse problem. They cannot have any business model where they don't have hundreds of thousands of these cars. So that unlocks a completely different thing. They could blanket Pennsylvania like no problem. And so maybe that's what we are seeing. Maybe this is like a hint that we're actually not just seeing metropolitan areas, but maybe broader, big areas.
So the way I'm looking at it is this, okay? We haven't seen much of a progress in the last month or two. And I think the reason is they rolled out 14 point, what is it now, 1.7? And now that once they got 14.2 out, this is now fixed. This is now working. It's now smooth and it's now amazing. This recent upgrade that everybody's using the last few days here is just saying that it solved the issues, most of the major, stuttering issues. So now that they have this, now they can go, and then like they've already said, you can just have supervised, and we already got data to show supervised works and safer. So now you can have supervised in all these markets. And Elon already said once you have 3 months worth, they might have enough data to then say pull the person out.
By the way, Herbert, I did some thinking around this. I didn't do the real work, so I can't present a model on this. But we also have to understand that when Tesla does stuff, we are talking about $1, 90 cents, 80 cents potentially per mile, whereas Waymo's at $2, $3, whatever, like it depends. Yeah. So that also means the whole economics around rolling these things out and density and population becomes very different. Because if you need 40, 50, 60 mile rides, because you're in some village in Pennsylvania, and so they want to go to the city and it's 50 miles. If you are in a Waymo model, how many people in a little town in Pennsylvania are sitting there like, I wish I could order something and pay $350 to go to to go to the capital? That's stupid. But how many people are sitting there like, I would pay $40? Mm-hmm. It's a completely different market. Suddenly you unlock the entire thing. And then utilization becomes very different, because you would think in a densely populated New York area, that's perfect. You have high utilization. But if you're in rural areas, utilization is also very high if everyone sits in these things for 50 or 60 miles.
Longer
rides.
It's
a very different situation, right, for Tesla.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Okay, so, I think we'll see what happens here, but that's what's going on with Tesla. Here's what Waymo's doing. They just announced this morning. Waymo's announced that they're introducing fully autonomous driving in 5 new cities. Miami this year, I think, where operations start today in Miami. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Orlando will begin in the remaining 4 cities over the coming weeks, ahead of opening doors to riders next year. So we're watching Waymo take so long to roll things out, and then now with competition here, they're starting to we got to show everybody we're out there. And just a few days ago, they did share that they have 2,500 vehicles. They only have 100 in Austin, by the way. So you think that, we're rolling out to all these cities, but they're going to be tiny little numbers, because we already know that they don't have more than 3,500 cars. They maybe have 1,000 more to go by all of 2026. They've not announced that they've got more cars than that at this point. So, they're going to seed. They're going to have small amounts, but I think Tesla is going to go and seed, like you're saying, but also have more supervised and then pull later, but they will be able to do larger numbers, right?
I mean, we had the discussion before, my thesis on Waymo. I think Waymo has a very reasonable chance and pathway of being the distant number 2, right? In the future, Tesla will control this market. Google might get 10 or 20%, which is worth the effort. And I think what Waymo has to do, and probably is their plan, at least on the Google side, maybe not on the Waymo side, they have to dump 10, 20, $30 billion. That's the budget in losses. Have to survive until 2028 or 29. Seed this thing, be present, build the brand, build some customers, get rid of LiDAR, secretly develop a thing that's vision only, and then plug and play once they have actually something that works, which they will, because Google is a power play in AI. And so I think it will be a bait and switch, get rid of all the stupid LiDARs and get rid of the AI stack, switch it to something that actually works, which will be exponentially easier to develop in the future, in the close future. But they need to do it now, because if you wait until 2030, you have zero chance. Tesla will have 100% of market because of network effects. So that's my bigger thesis. I think Tesla does not have 5 years advantage over everyone else in terms of technology, the AI stack, but they have probably 2 or 3 years on most people and maybe 2 years on Google. But if you allow them to run at the inflection point, which is probably next year, latest in 2027, if Tesla has, let's say, 3 years of running without competition, you're toast, because then they can deploy millions and millions of these things. Yeah. So you need to be right there when it happens and make sure you get your AI stack ready by then, to basically not get completely left in the dust.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think that we've seen Waymo have their research papers released, and they're talking about vision-only neural network solution. So they've been researching it, and I think they'll release that kind of a model, and then they need to partner. They need to partner with mass production of cars. This is really just a prototype, 1,000 here, 1,000 there. This is not mass scaling.
Well, the good news for Google is it's actually, if they get the AI stack ready, I think they will, but probably in 3 years or something, cars will be very cheap to acquire because everyone will be bankrupt. So you can buy Volkswagen or Ford or GM or Hyundai for probably a few cents. So
which is what they need to do. Yeah, they need to become a car manufacturer. Okay, you heard it here first. Google's going to buy a legacy auto and become an automaker and attach only vision only. I think that makes the most sense. So just a very quick note here that we've been reporting as it comes, more and more institutions buying Tesla. Here in Q3, now we know that Viking Global, they added 509,000 shares. That's a 46% increase. So that's pretty good, obviously. And then today, this was the news that Trump is going to host the Saudi Crown Prince. Elon's going to be a dinner guest, as well as Tiger Woods. I guess Tiger Woods is dating the ex of one of his sons, I guess.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, why Tiger Woods? Well, because they're close with Elon. But anyway, Trump. But tomorrow's White House summit between Trump and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will deliver a trifecta of agreements: civil nuclear development cooperation, F-35 fighter jet sales, and a security deal with NATO. So, Saudi Arabia's biggest energy partnership leap. I wonder if that's why Elon's there, to talk about some sort of energy partnership, or regardless, it's still a good sign is what I'm trying to point out. Because, we talked about it. You and I have been having discussion. Your position is that what matters most is Tesla shows that the product works. Does robotaxi work? If robotaxi works, the rest fall from that. Well, the regulations should be easier to, to get. But here's a partnership or relationship with President Trump is back in good situation. So now, regulations for robotaxi, regulations for bots, hopefully is more likely than not. That's, I think, good for Tesla investors, right?
Absolutely. And this whole feud between Trump and Elon, my and CERN's position back then, we said it's fake news, but
it's not.
I wouldn't it doesn't matter if it was faked or not faked, but what was clear is this is not going to last, because the interest on both sides is overwhelming, right? Trump needs Musk, and Musk can definitely benefit from Trump massively. When it comes to Saudi Arabia, I don't even think this is a big Tesla topic. It's more an Elon Musk economy topic. It's about XAI, it's about AI investments, maybe about some energy. But I think Saudi Arabia and the very forward-thinking leadership there in terms of tech is just an incredibly important partner in investing in the Musk economy, but also in deploying pieces of it and partnering up. So I think there is some very strategic stuff going on. They love Musk, by the way. It was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I disagree with that one. I think it is all about Tesla, or not all about Tesla, but it's mostly Tesla. I think what's going on is Saudi Arabia and Elon and Tesla is going to have a partnership with some sort of massive energy generation, solar farms, and that's why he's there. It's in the works.
That could
that's
be.
That's what I'm predicting.
No. But it's also about AI, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
because Saudi
agreed.
is super big in AI, and of course Elon is very big in AI.
Okay. Thank you
Well,
so much, Joe.
that's the advantage to be Elon Musk. It's like we don't have to decide if it's about Tesla or XAI. It's like all of the above, obviously.
That's the topic we're going to talk about tomorrow. That's the one we're working on right now. Is the strategy for Elon is bigger than any of us ever thought. Tesla, SpaceX, and XAI, and what his potential partnerships are, including Apple and maybe even Jeff Bezos. That's my thing. Nobody said anything that is going to happen. I'm just theorizing. Okay, follow Joe on his X account at Joe Bakti, but also check out his website, pioneerlands.net. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.